time together during this series of gospel meetings. I trust that you will allow me the liberty to make a personal comment or two. I first want to thank this congregation, especially the elders of this church, for extending to me another invitation to come and be with you. I always keep a warm place in my heart for you, this congregation. Road Creek, we go back for a number of years, and I'm just honored that we've had this relationship throughout the years, and I'm grateful to be able to be a part of this assembly this evening. And I trust that the things that have been done and things that have been said during this gospel meeting has been that which you find edifying and encouraging. I've tried to do the very best that I can. So I thank you, and I thank the elders for extending to us the invitation. I want to thank those of you who have provided meals for us, either taken us out or had us graciously into your home. You're very kind. You're very hospitable. It's what Christians ought to do, and you've done it well. We just appreciate that so very, very much. It's just kindness that Sue and I will not soon forget. I want to thank the song leaders for the good way that they've led the singing throughout this week, those who've led in prayer, those of you who've been here from night to night. We just are so very honored and grateful for you. And again, I want to thank Barry and Susan for opening up their home and allowing us to be a part of their family this week. They've been very, very nice to us, very kind, very hospitable, just made us feel at home. Matter of fact, they told us just make yourself at home, and I tried to have a yard sale. And that didn't go over too well, but they've been very gracious. What they didn't know they were getting into is we're not leaving till in the morning. And so I'm going to get another night out of them. Maybe even a big breakfast, who knows. But we just thank you so much for the kindness and the hospitality that you've all extended to us this week. If you're ever up around Indianapolis, well, drop in and see us. Sue tells me every time I say that, be sure I say one at a time, not everybody together. But we would love to have you to come up and join us and be with us in Indianapolis. If you have a Bible with you tonight, I want you to open it to the 16th chapter of the Gospel of Luke. I'm going to do something tonight that I usually don't do in the course of a sermon, and that's read a rather lengthy passage of Scripture. But I want to read it with you. I'm going to be reading from the New King James Version of the Bible, and I want to read this very familiar story with you. And then we're going to go back and study from that story and strive to make some applications. But in the 16th chapter of Luke, beginning at verse 19, all of the words that we'll be reading are the words of Jesus. He tells this story. Jesus said, there was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. But there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, full of sores, who was laid at his gate, desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. So it was that the beggar died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And being in torments in Hades, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. Then he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and you are tormented. And besides all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that those who want to pass from here to you cannot, nor can those from there pass to us. Then he said, I beg you therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may testify to them, lest they also come to this place of torment. Abraham said to him, They have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. And he said, No, Father Abraham. But if one goes to them from the dead, they will repent. But he said to him, If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rise from the dead. After having read that, I want you to mull it in your mind just a little bit. What did you think of that narrative? What did you think of the story that we just read? What sort of thoughts were provoked in your mind as you read those words? You know, Jesus had a knack in his teaching. I have to tell you, he was unparalleled in his ability to be able to reveal to us some very thrilling stories. Jesus would punctuate his teaching with what I refer to as vivid illustrations to make a tremendous point. And this is what Jesus is doing here. This is a compelling story that Jesus gives. And I want to tell you, the narrative of this story is that which we often refer to just simply as the rich man and Lazarus. It's an easy story to understand. I believe probably every one of us, as we read the story this evening, come away pretty much comprehending and understanding what Jesus was talking about. As a matter of fact, it's a story that even the young children in Bible class will often study. They'll study about the rich man and Lazarus. But you know, even though it's a very simple story, even though the narrative is very easy to understand, it is wrought with mystery. It is wrought with intrigue, and it raises a number of questions in our minds. For example, the question is raised, is it a parable? Is Jesus just giving a parable here, and he has not in mind really what is in eternity? He doesn't really have in mind what's on the other side of the grave. Is this just a parable? Now, you know, what's interesting about that, when we ask that question, is it not called a parable? You know, usually when Jesus is giving a parable, the writer of the gospel will say, and he spoke a parable unto them, saying, such as in chapter 15, verses 1 through 3. He spoke a parable to them. This doesn't say that. Furthermore, it really doesn't have any parabolic characteristics. What I mean by that is different than those parables that we read in the Scriptures. Now, it does have some similarities. Verse, it begins with, there was a certain rich man, chapter 16 and verse 1, which is another story that Jesus gives that is a parable. It begins the same way. There was a certain rich man. But this is the only similarity that it would have with parables. I don't believe that this is a parable. I believe Jesus is giving us a very vivid illustration. And he does it in really 3 parts. He gives, part 1, what's going on in their lives, rich and poor. Part 2, there is a death that occurs. And then part 3, what is happening after death. So I don't believe that it's a parable. And another question is often raised, why is only one name given? Which, by the way, if it were a parable, this would have been the only parable where Jesus actually gives a proper name to an individual in the parable. There are 2 main characters here, other than Abraham, of course. 2 main characters. There's Lazarus and the rich man. Why is Lazarus' name given? But that's the only name. Lazarus is the poor man. And Lazarus is a word that means whom God helps. Now, this is not the same Lazarus that was the brother of Mary and Martha. This is an entirely different Lazarus. This is not the Lazarus of Bethany. And Lazarus' name given, whom God helps. Now, the other man's name is not given. It just simply referred to as a certain rich man. Now, some commentators, you might get an old commentator, a Matthew Henry commentator, or something like that, and it may refer to him as Dives. That's not his name. That's just simply a term that means rich. And so he's not named. But now the Jews will tell you that his name was Phineas. But that's just their assumption. The Egyptians would tell you that his name was Amenophis. Again, that is merely an assumption. His name is not given. Now, it may be that his name is not given because it's not recorded in heaven. And, he's going to be in torment, as we'll see in just a moment. But only one name is given. And so these are some questions that we have about the story. Another question that comes to our mind is, what's the difference between Hades and hell? If you're using an old King James version, I'm talking about a 1611 translation of the Scriptures, you're going to find that the rich man is said to be in hell. But now, the New King James Version and some of the other translations will say that he was in Hades. What's the difference? Well, there is a big difference. Hades, as it's used in verse 23, is the unseen realm of the dead. Hades is the place that one's spirit immediately goes to upon his death. The body and the spirit are separated. The body goes back to the ground, and the spirit then goes back to God. It goes into the realm of the dead, that is, into Hades. Now, in Hades, there is apparently a place called paradise. Because Jesus told the thief on the cross in Acts 2 and verse 27 that today you will be with me in paradise. And of course, in Acts 23 and verse 43, and in Acts 2 and verse 27, it said, in quoting the 16th Psalm, that the soul of Jesus would not be left in Hades. So Jesus went to paradise. The thief on the cross went with him to paradise. And I believe this is where Lazarus was, in the bosom of Abraham in paradise. But also in Hades, there is this place of torment. This is where the rich man found himself upon his death. He was in torment. So in Hades, in the unseen realm of the dead, you have at least two places. You have the place where the saved go and the righteous go, and that's the place of paradise. Then you have the place where the wicked go, the unsaved, and that's a place of torment. After the judgment, after the resurrection and the judgment, then those who are lost will be cast into hell. That's the Greek word Gehenna. That is the eternal abode of the wicked. That is the abode that was created for the devil and his angels, Matthew 25 and verse 41. This is the place of torment. This is the place where Jesus said that the vipers, that is, those enemies of his during the first century, would go. And this was a place that was created for the devil and those who serve him. The devil and his ministers, the devil and his angels, his messengers. And so, while the story is easy to understand, it again, as I said, is wrought with mystery. And I'm going to tell you what I do, though, and this is how I'm going to do this tonight. I often view the story that we just read here in Luke 16. I view it a little bit differently than maybe we usually look at the story. And I'm going to do that this evening, and I'm going to do it because I want to draw you into the story. I want to pull you into this story because I believe this is what Jesus intended for us to happen to us, is to be pulled into the story. I want to view the story as a family record. I believe that what we see here is the record of a family. And I've got this on the screen to just simply illustrate what I'm talking. You know what a family record is. And especially during, olden days, or, yesteryear, as we often say to it, or back in the day, families had these big Bibles. I'm not talking about the kind of Bible you bring to a church service like this. It's not really the kind you sit down and read. It's a big old family Bible. And if you open it up to the middle, you're going to find what's referred to as a family record. And I tell people, I can remember going down from Louisville to visit with my grandparents who lived around Mount Vernon, Kentucky, and go down there, and I'd go into their house, and I used to love to get their old family Bible down and look at it. Because you get that family, I'd get it down, set it in the floor, and I'd open it up to between the Testaments, and I'd just key it. And I'd sit cross-legged, and I'd begin to look at that family Bible and that family record. And I'd see there's where Clarence and Lena, my grandparents, I see where they were married. And I see the birth of all 8 of their children. I look down at number 4, and there's my mother's name listed. Then I see out beside that her marriage, and I see out beside that her children listed, and there's my name. And these things would intrigue me. As a matter of fact, used to, that family records that were contained in family Bibles were often used as an authentic documentation insofar as the government was concerned. I'm not sure that's the case anymore. But I think this is what we see in the story that we just read. We see, I believe, a family record. And this is how I want to view the story this evening. I want to look at this family record. This family of an unknown or unnamed man, and strive to make some points about it. Now we'll go back to read. We'll read verse 19. The Bible says there was a certain rich man. Now this tells us, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to be examining a very wealthy family. It says that this rich man was clothed in purple and fine linen. The idea of being clothed in purple and fine linen, as far as Bible times are concerned, was a display of both power and prestige and wealth. You take, for example, in Daniel chapter 5, when Daniel was able to read the handwriting on the wall, Belshazzar told him that if you can do this, I'll put a golden chain around your neck, I'll give you 1/3 of my kingdom. And he was clothed in purple, showing his power and his prestige. It's not just an idea of liking certain colors. This is an idea of power, and it's an idea of wealth. In Judges chapter 8 and verse 26, the kings of Midian were clothed in purple. And the Bible says that he fared sumptuously every day. Let me tell you what he's talking about here. He's talking about a man that had enough money to do anything that he wanted to do. He was a man who fared sumptuously every day. That is, he had wealth to burn every day of his life. He would have been, I believe, a whole lot like we can read about in the book of Ecclesiastes as far as the writer of Ecclesiastes is concerned. You know, he was a man who fared sumptuously every day. You know what that means? I'll show you what that means. He said in chapter 2 and verse 10 of Ecclesiastes, whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. You know, he said, I saw it, I got it. I had enough money. It's kind of like, I don't have to ask what the price is. I don't have to worry about that. I see it, I like it, I get it. This is what it means to fare sumptuously every day. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. This is, I believe, a good illustration of how this man was able to live his life. He had money, ladies and gentlemen, that would be that which would escape our being able to even fathom having that much money. You know, whatever he wanted, he could buy. He could buy the best, and he could have the most of anything that he wanted. Now let me stop right here and say this. That was not the reason that he ended up where he was. The story is not that simple. You know, we can't equate riches with sin. Riches have problems, there's no question about that. But he didn't wind up in torment because he was rich. So let's get that out of our mind. You know, let's don't equate poverty with righteousness and equate wealth with unrighteousness. That's not that easy to determine. There's some problems with riches. Let me say that. You know, sometimes somebody that has riches, they lose their need for God because they think, this is all that there is. And so riches sometimes gives us a false sense of security. That's what happened in Luke chapter 12 and verse 19. The rich farmer. I have many goods laid up, or much goods laid up for many years. You know what? I got it made for a long time. But that's not the case. This night your soul is required of you. This happens to us with wealth. You know, you just may have a whole lot of wealth, and that may cause you to just be having a sense of security that's false. And that's a problem with wealth. Sometimes wealth blinds us to our spiritual needs. Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 8 verse 22 that the deceitfulness of riches will choke out the word. And riches are deceitful because they're able to blind us to our spiritual needs. And sometimes riches cause us to forget and to deny God. As the proverb writer said in chapter 30 and verse 8, and he's asking God, do not make me full, or do not give me wealth, lest I be full and deny you. And that happens. But that's not the reason that this man wound up where he was. Because you see, the Bible tells us there's certain godly rich people. Abraham, Job, get in the New Testament, Philemon, Lydia. These people were wealthy. and they were righteous. So what do we learn? You like to study about rich people. You know how I know that? I know that because if that were not the case, the Kardashians would not be known by anybody. But we get intrigued by that, so hang on now. We're studying about a rich family. But I'll tell you something else we know about this family. We know that not only was it a wealthy family, it was a large family. The Bible says this man had 5 brothers, so at least there were 6 children in this family. Girls were not named at this time during this period, or not numbered rather, usually just those who were going to be heads of household. So he could have had, I don't know, 5 or 6 sisters. There could have been some children involved. I don't know. But what I do know is there were at least 6 boys in this family. And I'm going to tell you, when you've got a good size, you know, I didn't come from a big family. I really did. My wife come from a larger family than I did. I had a brother and a sister. And so, you know, not many of us. And so we got married. We just had 3 children. But now they decided they were going to replenish the earth, and they gave us 11 grandchildren. So, yeah, that's a blessing. And I love for us to all get together. We had this great big table. And we're all getting, that doesn't seat us all, but we're able to sit around, it's a great time. And I perceive that this was how those banquets in this family was. I believe that those banquets were a festive occasion, because I believe this family was somewhat close to one another, because he's concerned about his brother. And I believe the implication is that they're close. They care about each other. You know what I think is sad? I'm going to tell you what I think is sad. And I see it in Christians. And I see it in churches. I see families falling apart. I see families who cannot remain close to one another. Siblings, when they were young, they stayed close. But you know, as they got older, they just drifted apart, and there's no love and there's no affection there. And that's a shame. Because families ought to be close. I don't care. I don't care if mom and dad have already passed on and siblings are the only thing that's left. You ought to be close to one another. But you know, I'll tell you what else I see. I see whenever there is an inheritance, do you ever notice how money causes family to just collapse, fall apart? Because they can't, you know, they're afraid somebody's going to get a little bit more than they got. There was a family in Tennessee. When I moved down to Hendersonville, Tennessee several years ago, and preaching down there. Just before I moved down there, there was a lady in the church. She and her husband had made a vast fortune in Nashville. And her husband had been dead for a few years, but she died just before I moved down there, and she left a sizable inheritance. She had 2 children, a son and a daughter. And so what she did then is she left several $million to each of those children. She left several $million to various charities and things that were close to her heart, and she left $1 million to the congregation where she worshiped. Now you would have thought that would have satisfied these kids, but it didn't. They hired them a truckload of lawyers, and they began to contest the will, and they drug that thing out for like the next 10 years, and guess who got the inheritance? That's right, the lawyers did. And that brother and sister, they never spoke to each other again. And this is the way that people carry on. I don't believe you would have seen that in this family that we're studying tonight. I believe they were close because he was concerned greatly about his brothers. And by the way, you talk about inheritance, I tell you how I feel about inheritance, and I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart. If my mother, when she passes on, if she doesn't leave me a dime, she leaves it something to everybody but me, I'm going to tell you, I'm not contesting a thing, because if Mama didn't want me to have it, I don't want it. Amen. And that ought to be the attitude of all of us. Amen. Here is a family that is a wealthy family. It is a large family, and I've spent a lot of time talking about that because of what I want to talk about now. As we continue to look in this family record, ladies and gentlemen, we see that now they have lost a loved one. There is a death recorded now in this family record. And the size of that family and the wealth of that family could not prevent death from invading that family. The rich man, the Bible says, also died and was buried. You can't buy off death. And the size of your family does not, in any way, shape, manner, or form, prevent death from invading and snatching a loved one from you. And this is what we see here. Death does not play favorites, ladies and gentlemen. Not in any way. It invades every family. And the size of our family, the wealth of our family, and anything else that we want to say about our family will not prevent death from stealing a loved one. Numbers chapter 16 and verse 29 reminds us that death is the common fate of all men. Now I want to tell you something. It probably is my fault that I have not been able in the few days that I've been among you to reach into your heart and convince you of your need to be prepared to die. Because my friend, let me tell you something, death is awaiting you, and it's awaiting to invade your family if it hasn't already. It's going to happen. Caskets come in all sizes. We can be different colors, we can be different ethnicities, we can have different bank accounts, but I'll tell you what we have in common is we're going to breathe our last and we're going to die. Here is a family that death has invaded and snatched one of their children. And like we talked about the other evening, there's nothing you can do about it now. It happens. This is why the Ecclesiastes writer tells us in chapter 7 and verse 2, it's better to go to the house of mourning than to the house of feasting. For that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. I'm going to tell you what that's telling you. What that's telling you is, tomorrow night, about 7:30 or so, you would be better served if you went down to the funeral home than it would be to sit in front of your television, sit and watch Kentucky and Davidson basketball game. Because that's not real, but that's real down at the funeral home. And one of these days, your family is going to be gathered there at the funeral home. Or you will be down there visiting your loved one. This is what we see in this story. It's common to all people. And I'm going to tell you something about this. Death, you know, I hear a lot of preachers sometimes, you know, they'll read some very glamorous and flowing and beautiful poems to describe death. This preacher don't do that. I don't do that. Oh, I understand that death is a step that we take between, you know, from this life into eternity, and I know that we can't go to heaven without dying. I understand that. And blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. I understand that. But what I do know is those of us who are left behind, we grieve and we hurt. And death changes things. When the Bible refers to death as the rider of the pale horse, or the Bible refers to death as the king of terrors, or the Bible refers to death as the enemy of Jesus, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing beautiful about that. And when death comes into our family, going home is never the same. Birthdays and holidays, there's always an empty chair in the family circle. And that's the way it is in this family. Things were changed. Whether it's a father, a mother, a spouse, a son, a daughter, a grandchild, death has invaded my family. You know, there's an old spiritual song that has always meant a lot to me. It's called the song is called "Are All the Children In?" And I want to read a couple of stanzas of that song for you tonight. And I want you mothers, and I want you fathers, and you grandparents, and I want you to listen. And every family member, let these words sink in. The old song goes like this: I think oft times as the night draws nigh of an old house on the hill, of a yard all wide and blossom-starred, where the children played at will. And when the night at last came down, hushing the merry din, mother would look around and ask, are all the children here? 'Tis many and many a year since then, and the old house on the hill no longer echoes to childish feet, and the yard is still so still. But I see it all as the shadows creep, and though many the years have been, since then I can still hear my mother ask, are all the children in? As we examine this family record, this mother could not say, all my children are in. One of my sons is in the graveyard. Things have changed. But as we look at the family record, we notice another recording that catches our attention. And that is, a loved one is lost. Not only is his body lying in the ground, his soul is in torment. And being in torments in Hades, he lifted up his eyes. Let's notice again verses 24 and 25. Then he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things, but now he is comforted and you are tormented. I can picture in my mind the fine funeral this boy had. I can picture the rabbis and the scribes reading in the scriptures, and I can just hear the eulogies that are being offered on this young man's behalf. Oh, what a fine family he comes from, and he went to synagogue all the time, and they were such, philanthropists that give this away and they give that away. They were just pillars in the community. And oh, what a fine, and you know what? God bless him, I'm sure that he's better off now. No. And I'm telling you something, all of the flowers and all of the food and all of the well-wishing that went on and all of the eulogies that were said would not change this one bit. This man was lost. And there was nothing that they could do to change that. He's lost. And like I said, all the things that would have been said didn't change. You know what? I'm going to tell you, my friends. Some of us, we've got an erroneous concept of death. We think death works miracles. We think death is magical. Here's somebody that can live the life of a drunk and a reprobate and a sinner and hateful and ungodly and immoral, and they die, and the undertaker fixes them all up, dresses them up nice, takes care of the hair and the facial features, and we walk in and we look at that lifeless body and we say, well, he's better off now. That's not always the case. Amen. Oh, doesn't she look at peace and at rest now? And all of her burdens are over. Not if she died outside of the Lord, my friend, and I'm just here to tell you. Death does not work miracles. I cannot live in the filth of sin and die pure as the fresh-driven snow. How I live is how I die. If I'm living in adultery and I die in the sin of adultery. This is what we've got to realize. I hear people talking about it, and I was discouraged by this. Some of these famous people who die suddenly. A few years ago, Robin Williams died at his own hand, hung himself, the comedian. And I see Christians on Facebook and other social media saying, rest in peace, Robin. Well, I'm telling you tonight, if you die outside the Lord, you will never rest in peace. This is the reality of it. This is what's recorded in this family record. We can't live in the filth of sin and die righteous and pure. Because how I live is how I die. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the grief that this family felt. It doesn't matter, the kind, well-wishing words that they received. This boy was lost. And you know what? He was going to remain lost. And there's nothing that could be done to change that. Abraham makes that plain. You can't cross from here or from there to here, and we can't cross from here to there. It's just that's the way it's going to be from now on. This boy is lost. And I'll tell you what else we record here. we record that not only is he lost, but all 5 of his brothers are lost. Oh, Abraham, send Lazarus back to my father's house, that he may testify to them, lest they also come to this place of torment. Unless those brothers changed their ways, they were going to join their brother in torment. You know what this boy's saying? You know what this means? I'll tell you what it means. What it means is, somebody get word to my folks. I love them too much for them to be here with me. I don't want them here. I want somebody to reach them with the truth. I want somebody to reach their hearts with the gospel. I want somebody to reach their hearts with the message of salvation. Please don't let them come here. And I'm going to tell you, my friends, listen to me, and I'm saying this as kindly and as lovingly as I possibly can. I know I've got loved ones who died in sin. I know that. I know that. And it burdens me to think of that. And I know some of you may have some loved ones that have passed on. And they're not Christians, and they died outside the Lord. I hurt with you. I know how you feel. Believe me, I do. But let me say to you tonight, don't develop a sense of loyalty to the memory of those loved ones and refuse to become a Christian because you think you're condemning them. Let me tell you something. What they're saying tonight is that please, somebody reach you with the truth of God's Word. I don't want you where I am. It might be your mother, your father. It might be your grandparents. But whoever it is, they're saying, please, somebody get word to them. I don't want you here. Don't develop this sense of loyalty that keeps you from becoming a Christian. This boy said, somebody get word to my brothers. I don't want them here. I'm going to tell you, my friends, don't wait. Don't wait until it is too late to do something about the condition of your soul. Maybe you've got a loved one that's lost, and you can't change that. Well, what they're hoping is that you'll change where you are and become a Christian. That's what they're hoping. And that's what their pleading is tonight. Don't wait. Don't wait until you find yourself in eternity, condemned throughout eternity like this young man is, and say, oh, I hope somebody reaches them. Don't wait. And don't wait until you go to walking back from the graveyard. Oh, I'd give anything if I'd have said something to him about his soul. Oh, I'd just give anything if I had a chance to just talk to him about his soul. Don't wait. This is important. This man was lost. He was lost for an eternity, and his brothers were also lost. We might have some family members we know that are lost. And then you know what? We can live close to that, and we live so close to that it becomes almost something we don't even think about. If you've got a loved one that's lost, you get on the phone. Or you make a trip over there. You take your Bible and you open your Bible and you say, I've been praying for you, and my heart is hurting for you, and here's what I want to share with you from God's Word. And if a loved one is lost in an eternity, believe me, they don't want you to be there. They want you to do something about your soul. Wealthy family. Large family. Family whose loved one has died, a family whose loved one is lost, and all the brothers are lost unless they make a change. But I think the saddest part of this story is the fact that they had rejected salvation. Notice what he said. He said, Abraham said to him, now your brothers, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. You know what that said? Yeah, I'll tell you what he's saying. He said they've got the Bible. They've got the writings of Moses and the prophets. And you let them listen to the words of Moses and the prophets. And that'll save them. Not sending somebody back from the dead. That's not going to do it. They've got Moses and the prophets. And you know what this man said? This man said, well, no, Father Abraham. But if one goes back, and talks to them, he said, if they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rise from the dead. You know what that says? That says if you don't listen to what the Bible says, if you don't listen to what the Scripture says, there's not one thing God in heaven can do. Amen. That's scary. That's frightening. God's not going to send you a small, still voice. He's not going to send you a vision. He's not going to give you a sign. He's not going to send somebody back from the dead. He's not going to give you a second chance after death. What God is saying, if you don't listen to the Bible, there's nothing I can do for you. The gospel is God's power to save. We not only have Moses and the prophets, we've got Jesus and the apostles. We've got the perfect law of liberty that's calling us into a relationship with God. And if I don't listen to that, there's nothing heaven can do for me. This is what makes the story sad. God is not going to force us. God is not going to grab us by the nape of the neck and throw us in the baptistry against our will. If we do not respond, then there isn't anything that God can do for us. Because if we reject the Bible, we're rejecting the only means of salvation. We're rejecting the only opportunity that we have. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's been 2,000 years since Jesus told the story. And I want to tell you tonight, that boy has not received a drop of water. And if his brothers didn't change, they're there with him in that place of torment. Now, our good brother gave us the song number for the invitation song that we're going to be singing this evening. And I believe that there are those in this assembly tonight who are not ready to meet God in eternity. And I want you to consider this as we sing the song of invitation. How much of his wealth would he be willing to part with to have the opportunity that you've got this evening to become a child of God? I believe, my friends, he would have parted with everything that he had to be able to walk down this aisle, give his heart to the Lord, and surrender to the teaching of Jesus and be baptized for the remission of his sins, or be restored to the Lord. Come home where there's safety. Come home where there's peace. Come home where there's hope. Don't let this opportunity slip by. Learn from this family record what's important. You're not a Christian tonight and you believe Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and you're willing to repent of your sins, turn from them, confess your faith in Jesus, and be baptized for the remission of your sins, you can be raised to walk in newness of life. You can live with hope of a better tomorrow. If you need to repent in prayers of this congregation, well, we ask you to repent. We ask you to come forward and let us pray for you. Let us help you in any way that we can. Make your life what it ought to be. You're subject to the invitation. Won't you come right now? Together we stand as we sing.
Hear the sweet voice of Jesus say, "Come unto me, I am the way." Hearken the loving call away. Come, for he loves you so. Only a step, only a step. Come, for he bled for you. as the roots